Akeem Olufemi Gbajabiamila. God bless you all.
Anti-terrorism bill that is currently in force in Nigeria.
House reconvenes, passes terrorism prevention and money laundering bills.
The national insecurity has consumed and continued to consume more lives of innocent Nigerians.
And, once again, lawmakers debate on ways to contain security challenges in Nigeria.
The program is House Ticket, and I am Firdaus Ahmed Wakili, your anchor. When the House reconvened last week, it gave accelerated hearing to bills that have direct bearing on the war against terrorism, money laundering and other financial crimes. These bills, numbering about 4, were considered for first, second and third readings. Find out what they are and their import in the course of the program. In a related development, far-reaching recommendations were once again adopted when the House debated motions on insecurity across the country. Stay tuned to House Ticket for the details. Coming your way after this short break. Don't go away.
If we set our minds right, embrace each other in love and brotherhood, we will come through these troubling times. We will survive, we will recover, and then we will thrive. One nation under God, free, peaceful, and prosperous.
Prohibiting money laundering, providing protection for witnesses, terrorism prevention. These were the focus of the bills that received accelerated hearing when the House reconvened briefly on Wednesday, 4th May 2022. Details of how proceedings went are contained in our first report on the program. Keep watching.
To begin with, the House took the first reading of the 4 executive bills related to terrorism and financial crimes.
Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members, Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2022, first reading. Money Laundering Prohibition Act Repeal and Enactment Bill 2022, first reading. Witness Protection and Management Bill 2022, first reading. Public Interest Disclosure and Protection Bill 2022, first reading.
Having passed the first reading, the bills on the same day scaled second reading.
And enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2022 to provide for an effective, unified and comprehensive legal, regulatory and institutional framework for the detection, prevention, prohibition, prosecution and punishment of acts of terrorism, terrorism financing, proliferation and financing of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in Nigeria, and for related matters standing in the name of the House Leader. Other members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 4th May 2022, and I invite the Leader to move that the bill will now read the second time.
I rise as directed by the Honorable Speaker to move that a bill for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act 2011 and Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act 2013 and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2022 to provide for an effective, unified, comprehensive legal, regulatory and institutional framework for the detection, prevention, prohibition and prosecution and punishment of acts of terrorism, terrorism financing, proliferation and financing of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in Nigeria, and for related matters, HB 1980 be read the second time.
The other bills are a bill for an act to repeal the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 as amended and enact the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill 2022 to provide comprehensive legal and institutional framework for the prevention and prohibition of money laundering in Nigeria, establish the Special Control Unit under the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) and for related matters. A bill for an act to provide the framework for the support, management and protection of witnesses who provide information, evidence or any other assistance to law enforcement agencies during inquiries, investigations and prosecutions and for related matters. A bill for an act to repeal the Public Complaints Commission Act Cap P37, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and enact the Public Complaints Commission Bill 2022 for establishment of the Public Complaints Commission, with wide powers to inquire into companies by members of the public concerning the administrative actions of any public authority and companies or their officials, and provide legal framework for making public interest and for related matters. The bills were referred to the Committee of the Whole for consideration. To expedite action, the House dissolved into the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills. The session was presided over by the Deputy Speaker, Representative Ahmad Idris Wasi.
The first bill to be considered is for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act 2021 and Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act 2013 and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2022 to provide for an effective, unified, comprehensive legal, regulatory and institutional framework for the detection, prevention, prohibition, prosecution and punishment of acts of terrorism, terrorism financing, proliferation and financing of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in Nigeria and for other matters. I give the leader to give the synopsis of the bill.
What this bill seeks to do is essentially to bring the anti-terrorism bill that is currently in force in Nigeria in tandem with international best practice, because as we all know, terrorism is now a global menace, and all countries across the globe are enacting anti-terrorism laws with a view to tackling the menace of terrorism headlong. And various laws were enacted across various jurisdictions with a view to tackling this menace in our society.
1 to 10, 11 to 21, 12 to 31, schedules, long title. The next bill, the second bill to consider is for an act to repeal the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 as amended and enact the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill to provide comprehensive legal and institutional framework for the prevention and prohibition of money laundering in Nigeria, establish a social control unit under the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and for related matters. I now invite the leader.
Again, what this bill essentially seeks to achieve is to bring the anti-money laundering laws in Nigeria to be in tandem with international best practice as it is obtainable in other jurisdictions. And there is a need to fight the problem of money laundering headlong, because it's one of the instruments that enhances terrorism and illicit financial flows across jurisdictions. And in order to bring the Anti-Money Laundering Act in tandem with international best practice and what is obtainable in other jurisdictions, there is a need for us to have a special control unit in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission that will be charged with the responsibility of money laundering issues.
1 to 10, 10 to 11 to 21, 21 to 31. Schedules, long title. The third bill to consider is for an act to provide the framework for the support, management, and protection of witnesses who provide information, evidence, or any other assistance to law enforcement agencies during inquiries, investigation, or prosecution, and for legal matters. I now invite the leader to give the synopsis.
It is a well-known fact that protection of witnesses is sine qua non to the success of any anti-corruption fight in any jurisdiction. So what this bill seeks to achieve is to give legal teeth and framework for the protection and management of witnesses that give vital information for the fight against corruption and financial crimes, so that government will succeed in that drive. And that is essentially what this bill seeks to achieve.
Those in favor that clauses 1 to 10 be part of the BCI, 11 to 21, 21 to 31, 32 to 43, 43 to 53, 54 to 63, long title. The fourth bill to consider is for an act to establish and repeal the Public Complaints Commission ACAP P37 Laws of Legislation of Nigeria 2004 and enact the Public Complaints Commission Bill for the establishment of Public Complaints Commission with the wide powers to inquire into complaints by members of public concerning administrative and actions by the public authority and companies and for their officials, and provide legal framework for making public interest and foreign matters. And I invite the leader to give the synopsis.
This bill seeks to repeal the Public Complaints Commission Act. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, members, it is a well-known fact that the public laws establishing the Public Complaints Commission has become archaic, and therefore there is need to repeal those laws to bring it in tandem with the objective and subjective realities of what is obtainable now. And this bill seeks to, by doing that, make the Public Complaints Commission that ordinarily looks like a toothless bulldog that can bark but cannot bite, to give it the legal framework and the teeth to not only bark but bite in the implementation of its statutory duties.
1 to 10, 11 to 21, 12 to 31, 31 to 41, 42 to 57, long title, short title, schedules.
Another report considered and approved by the Committee of the Whole was on a bill for an act to make comprehensive provisions for the seizure, confiscation, forfeiture, and management of properties reasonably suspected to have been derived from unlawful activities and for related matters.
Clauses 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 23, 23 to 25.
The House reverted to plenary, where the Deputy Speaker reported progress, after which the reports were adopted.
Respected colleagues, the House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on a bill for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act 2011 and Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act 2013 and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2022 to provide for an effective, unified, and comprehensive regulatory and institutional framework for the detection, prevention, prohibition, prosecution, and punishment of acts of terrorism, financing, proliferation and financing of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in Nigeria and for related matters, and approved clauses 1 to 99, the schedules, the long titles, and the explanatory memoranda of the report.
The lawmakers further expedited action on the bills and passed them for third reading.
A bill for an act to repeal the Terrorism Prevention Act 2011 and Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act 2013 and enact the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill 2022 to provide for an effective, unified, and comprehensive legal, regulatory, and institutional framework for the detection, prevention, prohibition, prosecution, and punishment of acts of terrorism, terrorism financing, proliferation, and financing of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction in Nigeria and for related matters. Third reading.
Bill read a third term and pass. Move for the adoption of the votes on proceeding of today, 4th May 2022.
Speaker, honorable colleagues, I move that we do suspend our relevant rules to enable us to adopt the votes and proceedings of today's sitting. And so move, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Against any? That's have it.
Following the passage of the bills, Chairman House Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Representative Benjamin Kalu briefed journalists on the day's proceedings.
The instruments of stopping terrorism in the country that we created today, in line with the Senate, with the report of the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters and Bill for an Act to amend the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013, and for other matters connected thereto, which came from the Senate, was passed by us today to make sure that it reflects the best international or the international best practices.
On the fight against corruption and money laundering, the chairman explained more.
The EFCC will be better equipped in handling issues concerning money laundering. This law, which we handle today, will fill up the gaps that had hitherto existed in the Money Laundering Prohibition Act of 2011. So it's a better law that we have put together, that because the former one is obsolete. And from 2011 to 2022, talking about 11 years old law that has not been revisited as it's supposed to be. So we did that today to make sure that most nations, especially as a member of the Committee of Nations, that they are judged odds favorably as those who are making effort towards ending corruption. I'm sure this will increase the rating when it is of this country before the eyes of the Transparency International when we implement this instrument the way it ought to be.
Representative Benjamin Kalu spoke more on his explanation on the bills.
These are some of the interventions we have handled today, and also there's another one that had to do with confiscation of properties suspected to be from proceeds of crime. The EFCC again has been given more powers to that effect. This is to sanitize the space, especially as it concerns corruption. This is to show Nigerians and the world that this government is committed to fighting corruption by laying this framework, laying down this foundation upon which we can build. The journey will not be ended in a day, but definitely with this kind of framework, we will get somewhere.
That's it on the House consideration of the 4 bills on terrorism and money laundering. We'll take a break now, but when we return, more reports from the chamber as lawmakers debated setting up a task force to tackle insecurity across the country. Please stay tuned.
Not that the insecurity...
Earlier, before the passage of the Financial Crime and Anti-Terrorism bills on that Wednesday, the House at plenary, presided over by its Speaker, Representative Femi Gbajabiamila, deliberated on security matters across the country. This was sequel to a motion of urgent public importance moved by Representative Salame on the need to set up national task force to address insecurity in Nigeria.
Not that the insecurity in Nigeria has become too rampant and alarming to the extent that no state is immune. against the worrisome syndrome. Further, note that the federal government has spent huge amount of money in the national security sector with little success, as the challenge is still devastating and lingering with high degree of uncertainties.
This country has a well-established institutions saddled with the responsibility to do all the duties to secure this country. But I would rather advise the sponsor that he should charge or face or meet with the other who are responsible to do the work, to charge them to do the work, or ask Mr. President to call these people, and he has been doing it day in, day out. Issue of security, sir, in this place we have been discussing it. We don't want to make a situation whereby we will continue to discuss issue of security, politicizing the whole issue. But sir, to be honest, it's not the best for this country to establish a task force to deal with insecurity in this country.
Saying we need a task force on national task force, he went forward to detail the assignments and what the task force will do nationwide. Mr. Speaker, he did not lay the background, the formation, even the legal framework, how they will operate. The timing is worrisome. What will the National Task Force do that the National Army is not doing? What is the National Task Force going to do that the National Police is not going to do?
I think it is high time that Mr. President look into his advisors. Why do we keep having the occurrence of this insecurity? So finally, to say something about this motion, I would have loved the ranking member to have said to revamp the security architecture of this country, not giving them what to do or how to do it. Revamping the security architecture, meaning giving it a new look, a new strategy, and a new structure.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot be talking about lack of synergy, and we are still creating institutions that will further enhance the lack of synergy. So I believe that there are structures and institutions that have been created. It is for us to ask them to do their job. If you have to cut off a criminal phone network, the simple thing to do is to get to the Minister of Communications. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, there is usually a theater commander for any operation, and the military can set it up with ease.
The task force set up to take care of the health. Ministry of Health is identified, but in terms of schedule, it's not in the Constitution. What you have as a function, Office of the Chief of Army Staff, Office of the Chief of Defense Staff, Office of Inspector of General of Police, is defined in our Constitution. They have a specific role. And if you want to use of those powers, it's simple. It comes through constitutional amendment.
The Speaker also intervened with this question.
Is there any way we can save this motion without a task force?
We do not want to hamstrung Mr. President. The Mr. President can define the scope of work, set up the appropriate structure to deal with it.
So the motion remains, but with a new amendment, which hopefully by implication covers his prayer by implication. It is not expressed but covers his prayer. Those in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
The House resolved, among others, to urge Mr. President to use his constitutional powers to address the insecurity in Nigeria. Urge the President to direct security agencies and Ministry of Communications to block phone numbers used directly or indirectly by any individual or group to commit crime, especially kidnapping, banditry, and insurgency in Nigeria.
We pray in going forward, Father, we assure every member of this House.
On a sad note, the House observed prayers for the soul of Representative Nse Ekpeyon. The lawmaker had died on the 23rd of April 2022 after a brief illness. He was aged 58. He represented Oron Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State.
Lord, for our colleagues that have left, We commit the family into your hand, and we soak each and every one of them with the blood of Jesus.
The House has adjourned till the 23rd of May 2022. House Ticket will continue to bring you reports of our lawmakers as they uphold the tenets of democracy and make laws for the good governance of the nation. Until I come your way again, let's do Nigeria proud. Bye.